Going to you right now. We have got our guest.
Pastor.
We have got the doctor. Doctor, how are you?
I'm very good. How are you today?
Pretty good, actually. So we have got a fantastic guest with us today. He joins us live here on our big broadcast. And I can guarantee you, I'm going to butcher the guest's name because I'm looking at this and I'm like, Dr. Harsha Rajamia? I know I'm...
Rajasimha, yeah. That was awesome.
Really? I got it?
Yeah. Yes, you did.
You gotta be ribbing me, doctor. There's no way I got that. There is no way I got that, baby. We have got a great guest with us today. He joins us live here on our big broadcast. And we're going to be talking a little bit about IRAs and how pricing controls are basically killing biotech investments. And the good doctor joins us today. Let's talk a little bit about this. The IRA permits the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the HHS, to negotiate drug prices directly, penalizing manufacturers who refuse with excise taxes and sanctions up to 95% of the product sales. Apart from the drug price negotiation, the IRA's inflation rebates and mandatory manufacturer discounts will result in a 31% reduction in profits and lead to 135 fewer new drug approvals by 2039. I always love these years. Like anybody really believes we're all going to be around in 2039. The IRA is stifling medical innovation. It is problematic for millions of people who do not benefit from current drugs or medicines and are waiting eagerly for new drug treatments that can help them. And we have got the good doctor with us today. So, doctor, tell us a little bit about this, my friend, and then we will. Then I've got some questions here for you.
Thank you, James. First of all, for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here and share more about the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, which certainly is intention towards helping reduce the prescription drug prices for patients and families, particularly those battling with chronic and ongoing medical needs. And so this, while the intention is good, it also needs some corrections in terms of how this act has been drafted or enacted in its first version. It needs another iteration at a minimum. And so that's what I'm sharing about today. Key basic of Inflation Reduction Act is that it reduces or essentially enables the federal government to negotiate pricing with the pharmaceutical industry and companies that manufacture drugs, and especially the first after the first 11 years, 13 years, or certain exact duration, and that duration is less for small molecule drugs compared to biologics and other types of treatment modalities. And the small molecule drugs are the ones that are predominantly prescription drugs and the ones that most patients are used to, oral pills. And they don't have the industry, there is a balancing act that needs to happen while we reduce the pricing on patients. At the same time, we need a lot more drugs to be discovered and developed still, as only 5% of all known rare diseases have some drug available. 95% or so have zero approved treatments. And so if we look at reducing the cost of the 5% of the approved treatments, we are at the same time stifling the innovation and investments that need to go into the remaining 95% of the diseases which have zero treatments right now. And that's where the balancing act needs to happen.
That is fantastic. We have got a great guest with us today. Dr. Harsha joins us here on our big broadcast, and he has got a lot of different things to talk to us about today. And the big topic is how the IRA's pricing controls are killing biotech investments. And the good doctor joins us here on our big program. So how has this Inflation Reduction Act impacted the landscape of medical innovation over the past year? Give us more details. You've got all sorts of information on this and a lot of different things. Give us more details here, Doctor.
Thank you so much, James. Absolutely happy to share. The Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 essentially sets the pricing control for a maximum fair price to be negotiated by the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services here in the United States. And this power to negotiate pricing essentially means the government gets to set the pricing on many of these drugs, especially after the initial period that they have defined a few years after the drug has been approved for marketing by the US FDA. The pricing control will be applied on all drugs, depending on whether it's a small molecule, in which case there is 9 years of freedom, and then pricing controls will be applied. For biologics, it is 13-year duration. So it's not entirely clear why this discrimination of 9 years versus 13 years, depending on whether it is a drug or a biologic. And that's a point of concern for many pharma industries. And two, while it certainly reduces the burden on patients, a small number of patients who already have approved treatments for, in the rare disease space, which is where I am particularly focused on, there are about 10,867 named rare diseases as of now. And out of that, only 1,100 approved orphan drugs exist that treat about 500 to 600 rare diseases. And what that means is that only 5% of rare diseases have some FDA-approved treatments, and they all fall under this pricing control, and they are impacted. Now, that's the good news, right? Where patients who do have a treatment, they can it will become more affordable to them, which is good for everybody if patients have that benefit. The problem is, why 9 years of exclusivity only for small molecule drugs? Because a lot of investment goes into making of these drugs in the research and development phases. It takes 10 to 12 years to bring one drug through the regulatory review process, and costs average $2.5 billion to get one therapy through that process. That's because 9 out of drug candidates fail during the clinical trials, and only 1 out of 10 succeed. That means the pharma companies have to recover the cost of 10 drugs with one drug. And in rare diseases in particular, where the number of patients is a small population, they have very few number of patients to recover that cost from. And hence, the drug pricing is adjusted based on the prevalence and incidence and epidemiology of the disease. And common diseases are at an advantage here because they have a lot of enough room to recover the cost of that R&D. But for rare diseases, 9 years may not be sufficient time, as many of these ultra-rare diseases may only have a few hundred or a few thousand patients worldwide. And so how do you recover the cost of developing those drugs when you have 9 years, when it takes a few years even before you start commercializing the drug after the approval? And so that's where the challenge is.
We have got a great guest with us today. He joins us live here on our big broadcast. We were talking about the IRA's pricing controls are basically killing biotech investments. And we have got a fantastic guest with us today. The good doctor joins us. Dr. Harsha is with us. He is fantastic. He is, very knowledgeable He's a heck of a guy, and he is joining us today to make the complex understandable, as they say. So, in what specific ways is the IRA's provisions affecting the development of biopharmaceutical drugs? Give us more details on this.
Thank you so much for asking, James. That's a great question. So what's happening because of these pricing control is investors are not sure if they want to invest in a early stage biotech pharma company that is investing in finding a cure or a treatment with a cell gene therapy or a mRNA-based treatment or small molecule in particular, as small molecules only have 9 years to recover the cost of R&D after the approval, if at all they receive from the regulators. And so investors are questioning whether this is the direction they want to invest in, given that they're already taking significant risk in investing in a drug candidate which may or may not work, and there are more odds that the drug may not succeed than otherwise, because as I pointed out, historically 88% of candidate drugs entering clinical trials ultimately end up getting the approval from the regulators. And so given that, the investors are pulling out, and that's affecting many smaller biotech pharma companies that are shelving their drug development programs because they are not sure if they can recover that investment at all. And so this year has been very difficult in the biotech pharma industry, and many patients, especially with rare diseases, who are waiting for any hope from these drugs, are kind of on the fence, and desperation is increasing.
We have got a great guest with us today. So, Doctor, where can people go for more information online? How do they get involved with everything that you're doing?
You can find me at harsha@jeevatrials.com. I'm also easy to find on LinkedIn or Twitter. And to learn more about the company that I am involved with, we are helping these emerging biotech pharmaceutical companies in the context of Inflation Reduction Act in getting through their clinical development process in the most efficient way with our unified eClinical platform that essentially brings down 90% of the cost of clinical trial through a single digital platform for patient screening, enrollment, data capture, and remote patient engagement to drive significant efficiency in that process. To learn more about how we are helping reduce the cost of drug development, you can visit the website jeevatrials.com. That's JEEVATRIALS.com. Or you can email me at harsha@jeevatrials.com. I'm relatively easy to find on Google searches.
Fantastic. We have got the good doctor with us today. He joins us live here on our big program. So what the potential for these excise taxes and these sanctions, how should pharmaceutical manufacturers navigate the decision to negotiate drug prices under the IRA?
Yeah, so that's a great question, James. What's happening is, with respect to reducing patient cost and sharing and premiums, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services is requiring that there be out-of-pocket spending provision by eliminating the 5% co-insurance for Medicare Part D catastrophic coverage in 2024 and enforcing an annual $2,000 out-of-pocket spending cap for prescription drug costs covered by Medicare in 2025. So Medicare patients will have a hard out-of-pocket maximum similar to many patients with commercial insurance. There is also these drug manufacturers will have to pay a rebate if the prices of their single-source drugs that are used by Medicare beneficiaries exceed that of the inflation-adjusted price of the drugs that year. In other words, a rebate must be paid by the drug manufacturer if their drug prices increase more than the inflation rate of the wider economy. And this expands required discounts to drug manufacturers will be required to pay discounts of 10% during the initial coverage phase and 20% in the catastrophic coverage phase for brand name medications.
We have got a great guest with us today. He joins us live here on our big broadcast. Dr. Harsha is with us. He's the founder and CEO of Jeeva Informatics Solutions, and he joins us today here on our big broadcast. So, in what ways can patient advocacy groups and organizations respond to this potential reduction in new drug approvals and its impact on individuals in need of innovative treatments, Doctor?
Great question, James. When it comes to patient advocacy, particularly in rare diseases, the patient voice is very powerful, real, human, and they face the biggest heat or the benefit of this Inflation Reduction Act. And there are several groups that have welcomed the Inflation Reduction Act in reducing the drug pricing, especially as United States has been underwriting the cost of the pharma industry's R&D spend, as we pay the highest out-of-pocket in this country compared to any other country in the world. So Inflation Reduction Act is definitely being applauded and being welcomed by many patient groups, particularly for large population patient groups that are affected by common indications, such as diabetes and cost of insulin, for example, which 100 million people need the access to affordable insulin in this country. Whereas ultra-rare diseases which fall in that 95% of the rare diseases which have no treatment, the advocacy groups are entirely focused in the early research and development phases of drug discovery and development. And those patient groups are raising their voices and making themselves known that we need more incentive, especially for drug repurposing. In rare diseases, for example, if a drug is already approved for one rare disease, and if there is opportunity to repurpose the drug for another rare disease, it would not be eligible for the pricing exemption for the first 9 years or the 13 years. That's only for entirely new drugs that are being discovered and developed. And so it kills the opportunity for repurposing existing safe and effective drugs that are known to work for one indication to also be repurposed for another rare indication, which really is negatively impacting the rare disease community. And so that's where the patient groups are really focused on, is getting the Inflation Reduction Act to be amended so that this can be facilitated, so they can get faster treatments when it does not require to start from scratch.
We have got a great guest with us today. Dr. Harsha joins us here on our big broadcast. Before we let you go, Doctor, how do people get in touch with you online and everywhere else?
Thank you, James, for having me. I can be reached by email at Harsha, Harsha, at jeevatrials.com, or on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter at Harsha Rajasimha. And you can visit our website at jeevatrials.com. That's jeevatrials.com.
Well, Doctor, it is a pleasure to speak with you. I hope to do it again. Thanks for spending as much time as you did with us today, and I look forward to chatting with you soon. Have yourself a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you, Doctor.
You too, James. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.